The tale of Winter Haven's darkest Christmas began like any other, in the small, secluded village, nestled deep in the frozen embrace of the north. The year was 1845, and the air was filled with the crisp scent of pine and the soft murmur of anticipation for the festive season. Homes glowed warmly against the encroaching chill of the long winter night, and children, snug in their beds, dreamt of the magic that Christmas morning would bring. But this night was different. A sinister pall hung over the village, unbeknownst to its slumbering inhabitants. The harbinger of this doom was none other than Santa Claus, a figure revered and adored, now twisted by an unseen corruption. His once merry eyes now glinted with a cold, unfathomable darkness. The sleigh that had carried joy and presents was now loaded with instruments of far more evil purpose. As the village slept, Santa approached, his sleigh silent against the soft snow. He landed on the rooftop of the first house. His move was no longer jolly, but deliberate and ominous. He approached the chimney, a passage he had used countless times to bring joy. But tonight, it was a gateway to something far more evil. Santa paused at the chimney's edge, the moon casting an eerie glow on his figure. With a deep, unsettling sigh, he began his descent. The once jolly laugh that accompanied his arrival was now a mere whisper, a chilling sound that echoed down the flue. Inside the house, all was still. The stockings hung by the fireplace with care, unaware of the horror that was about to unfold. Santa emerged from the fireplace, not with a sack of toys, but with a look of grim determination. The house was quiet, the only sound being the soft breathing of its inhabitants, blissfully unaware of the nightmare that had just entered their home. Santa moved through the house with a purpose, his steps sure and silent. He approached a room where the children lay sleeping, their dreams of sugar plums about to be shattered by the grim reality of Santa's twisted mission. In the stillness of the night, Santa stood at the doorway of the children's room. The soft glow of the moon cast long shadows across the floor, bathing the room in an ethereal light. The children, nestled in their beds, were the picture of innocence, a stark contrast to the twisted figure that loomed over them. Santa's eyes, once warm and twinkling, now held a disturbing emptiness. He reached into the depths of his coat, not for toys or sweets, but for a small, ominously crafted list. The names of every child in Winter Haven were inscribed upon it, each one marked with a chilling precision. He moved closer to the beds, his presence a dark scepter in the serene room. The children remained oblivious, lost in dreams of Christmas morning. But these dreams were about to be interrupted by a nightmare they could have never imagined. Santa's hand hovered over the first child, his fingers trembling with an unsettling purpose. He checked his list once more, as if to confirm the unspeakable act he was about to commit. Then, with a swift and silent motion, he reached down and enacted the first of his heinous deeds. The air in the room grew colder, the very essence of Christmas joy being snapped away by Santa's presence. One by one, he moved to each child, his actions methodical and devoid of any compassion he was once known for. The list guided him, an unholy directive that he followed with a disturbing sense of duty. As Santa completed his grim task in the first home, he slipped back into the shadows, his heart as cold as the winter night. He moved through the village, entering each home with the same silent determination, leaving behind a trail of shattered innocence and corrupted festivity. The village of Winter Haven, once a paradise of holiday cheer, was now the setting of a Christmas tale so grim it would be whispered about in hushed tones for generations to come. The bearer of joy and gifts had transformed into a harbinger of darkness and despair. As Santa continued his ominous journey through Winter Haven, the moon sailed high, casting a ghostly light over the snow-covered village. House after house, he repeated his dreadful ritual, each act more harrowing than the last. The silence of the night was now heavy with an unspeakable dread, broken only by the faint rustle of Santa's movement. In every home, the scene was eerily similar. Stockings hung with care, now overlooked by a figure consumed by darkness. The twinkling lights and festive decorations, symbols of joy and celebration, stood in stark contrast to the horror unfolding within these walls. As he moved from one household to the next, Santa's list grew shorter, each name crossed off with a chilling finality. The once kind-hearted icon of Christmas had become an executor of twisted judgment, his every action a betrayal of the joy he had once embodied. Meanwhile, in the village, an unsettling sense of unease began to stir. The first hints of dawn brought with them a growing apprehension. Families began to wake, eager to embrace the joys of Christmas morning, but instead of laughter and excited chatter, heavy silence greeted them. One by one, the villagers discovered the grim reality. Homes that should have been filled with the sounds of celebration were instead a scene of despair. Parents found their beloved children, their faces still edged with the peace of innocent slumber. Now caught in an eternal quietude, the village square, once the heart of the Winter Haven's Christmas festivities, became the gathering place for a community united in shock and grief. The towering Christmas tree, adorned with lights and ornaments, stood as a solemn reminder of the joy that had been so cruelly snatched away. As the sun rose high, casting its light on the desolate village, the full extent of the tragedy became heartbreakingly clear. Winter Haven, a village that had epitomized the spirit of Christmas, was now a place of mourning, its joy replaced by pervasive sorrow. The police, alerted by the distraught calls from the villagers, arrived to a scene of incomprehensible horror. They embarked on a thorough investigation, following the trail of the perpetrator, who had turned a night of celebration into a nightmare. The investigation led the police to the outskirts of Winter Haven, where a lone, isolated structure stood against the dark winter landscape. It was Santa's workshop, once a place of wonders and happiness, now a silent testament to the nights of horror. As the officers approached, the cheerful facade of the workshop belied the darkness that lurked within. The door, slightly ajar, creaked ominously as they entered. Inside, the workshop was shrouded in shadows, the joyful trappings of Santa's trade, now overshadowed by a palpable sense of dread. The police moved through the workshop with a growing unease. The walls, once adorned with pictures of happy children and letters of Christmas wishes, felt like silent witnesses to the corruption of a once kind-hearted soul. The air was thick with the remnants of a joy that had turned to ash. In the depths of the workshop, they discovered a hidden chamber. The door was heavy, its opening revealing a scene that would haunt even the most seasoned officers. The chamber was a grotesque shrine to Santa's delusion, a collection of items belonging to the children of Winter Haven laid in the middle of the room. Each item was meticulously placed, forming a chilling tableau of Santa's madness. The walls were lined with photographs and drawings, twisted renditions of the children's faces, their eyes marked out, a symbol of their supposed naughtiness. In the center of the room, a large, tattered book lay open, Santa's list, with each name crossed out in dark, heavy ink. But the most horrifying discovery was Santa himself. He was found, slumped in a corner, his once vibrant suit stained and tattered. His eyes, now devoid of any sanity, stared blankly ahead. He muttered incoherently, clutching a small, ragged doll, a final disturbing keepsake of his nightmarish deed. The officers apprehended Santa, his resistance feeble, his spirit broken. As they led him away, the workshop, once a symbol of the magic of Christmas, stood empty and forlorn, a hollow echo of its former self. The village of Winter Haven was forever changed. The events of that Christmas Eve were shrouded in secrecy, the truth too terrible to be revealed. To the outside of the world, the tragedy was explained away as a devastating accident, but within Winter Haven, the memory of that night lingered, a shadow hanging over each subsequent Christmas. The villagers, in an unspoken pact, chose to celebrate Christmas with even greater joy, as to drown out the whispers of that horrifying night. But the legacies of Santa's hitlist remained, a chilling reminder that you should have a very Merry Christmas.